Welcome to Born for Greatness, a Rev'd podcast here to inspire you to pursue your greatest potential. I'm Clyde Sims.
And I'm Alyssa Panozzi.
We're your hosts.
Together, we're sitting down with courageous, inspiring, and resilient individuals to hear about their journeys towards greatness.
All right, welcome you guys. Born for Greatness, a Rev'd podcast. We are here today with Erin Freeman. Erin, welcome. Little background, all right? So Erin is currently in her 7th year of a PhD program at Boston University in sociology with a specialization in the field of immigration, race, and ethnicity. So today, we're going to get to know Erin. I think she impresses me personally, the field that she's gone into, and I won't say it's risky, but it's special. It's special to see someone go into this field. So we're going to get to know somebody doing something pretty courageous and awesome. And then also we're going to get educated today. All right. And so, Erin, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in on your Sunday. We appreciate you. So we want to get to know Erin first. All right. So a little bit about your background. So part of your family's from Costa Rica?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. All right. So take us through that.
So my grandmother on my mother's side is from Costa Rica. They're from San Jose, which is the capital. She came here in the 60s, so she's been here for a long time. We still have a lot of family over there, which has been really nice, so we can kind of go back and forth and still connect with that part of our family. It's been a struggle, and that's actually one of the things that has drawn me to this area. Is she arrived in the United States at a time that was encouraging of people coming here to kind of lose their culture, integrate, assimilate, become American. So nobody was taught Spanish. We were encouraged to just blend in. And so it's had to be something active for me to keep that connection, to learn to speak Spanish, to really form that identity of my own and go out of my way to make sure that I am still connected to that family and that part of who I am. But she's a wonderful person, and she is such a big part of me growing up. So I really strongly identify with that part of my family.
Yeah. So I got one of my best friends, same deal. He grew up in Maryland, Costa Rican, and had learned Spanish and everything. So knowing him really well, I can kind of relate. And so some of your other families, German and Boston Irish?
Yes.
Right.
So, Germany, my mom actually lives there now.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's there.
What part?
She's just north of Frankfurt.
Okay.
In a city called Marburg, and it's gorgeous. I try to visit as often as I can. And then the Irish is just Boston Irish, potato famine, came here, grew up in Somerville. So it's a really interesting mix.
That's cool. Yeah, that's interesting.
Why is your mom in Germany?
So she, again, we still have family there. We spent a lot of time there, and it's been really interesting growing up because she's always been different and it's seemingly quirky and never really fit in. And she always really connected with Germany in the way that I connected with Costa Rica. And so when my brother, who's the youngest of us, graduated high school, she left her job, she sold the house, she left her everything, and then moved to Germany. Thought she was going to be there for 3 years, has been there for 5 now. And when I go there to visit her, I was like, this is where you belong. You're not weird and quirky. You're just German.
Yeah.
And I was like, these are your people. So
That's incredible.
It's been so wonderful for her, and she's just stayed ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So, having family from all over really, and, different backgrounds, just how has that shaped you to who you are today?
I grew up in a household where you could sit at a table and have several conversations in several different languages happening at the same time. And then there'll be some people who speak these 2 languages and these 2, but these 2 people don't share a common language. So it's constantly translating. Somebody will turn to you and say something in a language, not thinking that they're saying it the wrong one. Be like, oh, I don't know this. So I've become very comfortable with being uncomfortable, which I've later grown up and found out is not something that other people have experienced.
No.
So just being exposed to different things, being open to different things, being understanding of different cultures, and being able to kind of take a step back to see somebody else's experience, to want to learn more about it, without having to kind of assert my own or expect people to bend to mine. So I think that's been such a formative part of my life.
Yeah. And so how has that led you into basically what you're doing and what you're working on now?
So as I said, identity was tough. As much as it is nice to sit back and learn about other people, it makes it kind of a struggle to know who you are, because you are so many different things, and at the same time not really belonging to any one of those. Being white, Latina, and not native Spanish speaker has been really a struggle to kind of own that identity. As much as I connect with it, as much as it has kind of formed me, you grow up thinking, can I really say that? Is that okay? I haven't faced the discrimination that other people have faced. So am I truly living that experience? So my initial drive to get into this field was to really understand more about that process and how people identify and what that means and what it looks like for subsequent generations of people coming over. And that led me to immigration law. And I was in immigration law for about 5 years. And that's when I really, really got into the experience of Central American immigrants, kind of seeing how the law worked and understanding their experiences. So I do a little bit of identity, of discrimination, and then of immigration, and being able to go to grad school and bring all of your interests together and, kind of form your own ideas has been incredible.
Cool. That's good stuff. Good stuff. So, okay. So one thing that sparked this entire podcast, right? I follow you on Instagram, and you did a post, IGTV post, and it really opened my eyes to a lot. And it's something, and me being of color, it is something that, and for it to open my eyes, I'm thinking it's got to open up a lot of people's eyes. And so that's a big reason why we wanted you to come on the podcast today. So in particular, it was talking about racism, basically. And we all know it exists. We all know it's everywhere, but I don't think a lot of us really know deep down the root of it. And I think, a lot of people have different views on what is the root of it. But to see your post and hear that story or hear, the truth was really something eye-opening. And I would love for you to share that with us today and kind of educate our audience on basically what started racism or how why it exists now, why it's so difficult to get past. And so I'm going to give you the floor.
Of course. Yeah, thank you. It seems like a really big question.
Yeah,
where did racism come from? Why is it here? Why can't we get past it? And it is. It's nuanced and there's no one answer to it. But if we want to break it down at the larger level, and this is what I did. I taught an undergrad class at BU this past year, and it was just a large intro class to theory. Right, so theory looks at the big structure, the big picture, rather than looking at any one individual example experience. And so I want people to take a step back, look at the whole picture, look at the structure, look at the system. We often think about racism as this individual interaction between people. Somebody said something bigoted, somebody said something themselves. This is what I think, and I think this person is better, worse, whatever it is. And as long as we think about racism in those individual interactions, it's going to be something that's never going to go away. It's never going to go away because nobody sees himself as a bad person. So then racism doesn't really exist anywhere. But if we look at racism as a structure, right, not so much those individual interactions, which do happen, but if we see racism as a structure, a systemic level issue, where the entire system is based on a set of expectations, a set of behaviors, a set of beliefs that founded this country and founded a lot of other areas, then we can see how difficult it is and why it's so pervasive. Anytime you try to change something at a system level, it's impossible, right? It takes forever, and that's the same thing here. So the way that I explained it in the post that you're talking about is we need to look at the system that racism is serving. Right? Because every kind of ism, we talk about homophobia, we talk about racism, we talk about misogyny, any kind of these systems are there to support a larger structure, right? They're there to maintain whatever structure was existing before. So we think about racism and we have to step back and say, what is racism serving? Because it's not just going to be here. It's not just going to be, I don't like this person. We think this group is better than this other group. What if it's still here? It's because it's serving a purpose. And in the United States, it's our capitalist system. Okay? We formed a capitalist economy in the beginning of the United States, and that was at the base was slavery. Right? Enslaved people were this incredibly cheap workforce that it was malleable to whatever you wanted it to be. And it is the reason that America is a powerhouse at the moment. You were able to not only have this agriculture economy in the South, but that also supported the industrial economy of the North. And it was what allowed the United States to produce, to export at such cheap cost of both labor and materials. And the only way that that would be maintained is if we had a system that justified it. Because even the people, we think of these people as being so antiquated, when nobody thinks that way, but even people then would probably have an issue with subordinating an entire group of people. So you have to come up with a rationale as to why this is okay, why this is the way it should be. And we talked about how it's the same in colonialism, but specifically in the United States, if you say, well, this group of people, they are uncivilized, they are inherently people who need to be domesticated, essentially. And how do we differentiate people? Well, this is what they look like. This is the color of their skin. White people are this dominant group. We are destined to be the people in charge. And these people are naturally more inclined to work, naturally more inclined to be submissive. And that justified the entire system. So it's not that the people are doing anything bad. They convinced themselves that enslaved people not only were good at what they did, but enjoyed being in a serving role. That's what really fulfilled them. So even people who were more sympathetic to the plight of enslaved people, they were kind of okay with the system. And as we know, in any system, as long as people are not satisfied, but as long as people are kind of softened, as long as they're kind of given what they need, and they're going to be okay with it. They're not going to cause too much of an issue. So that attitude is what allowed the society to grow. And as you said, that attitude has continued on beyond, because even if we break down a system in one form, that doesn't mean the system went away. And there's a lot of literature on how different forms of social control have existed. Michelle Alexander has this incredible book called The New Jim Crow. Everybody should go read it, because it's accessible to everybody, both academics and to lay people. And it described different waves of social control over people of color, yes, but in particular Black Americans. And how we started with slavery, and then there was emancipation, but then there was Jim Crow and other forms of kind of legal separation. And then that was taken down, and then you had the war on drugs and mass incarceration. So the kind of waves of social control. And each and every one of those is justified because of this attitude that has continued about one group being naturally inferior, or naturally criminal, or naturally hypersexualized, which is another big reason why so many Black men are convicted at higher rates, arrested at higher rates, given harsher sentences, things like that. So again, it's not so much the actual system that's in place. It's what is this system serving? And even though that system has looked different, we've had slavery, we've had Jim Crow, we have mass incarceration, they're all serving the same purpose, which is to maintain the economic structure that has made us so powerful, that has made us so successful. And there are powerful forces on the top who are looking to maintain that system. And they are very, very good at it. And we, yes, I include me, a lot of us are very unwillingly participate, or not unwillingly, but unknowingly participating in this. And it doesn't have to be an explicit, racial epithet, or doing something that is doing something that's very, very clearly racist in order to contribute to that system. And that's why that's so difficult, because we are intentionally kept in the dark, and we don't want to be looked at as a bad person. So many of us, even when we do find out about this system, are kind of unwilling to evaluate our role in this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's deep. It's deep. One thing that you mentioned in the post was something that I always thought of. So I grew up playing soccer and played at a higher level, playing professionally. And I tell people all the time about the locker room. And so you get into these situations with people of different backgrounds and different races. And when you spend so many years with them and you spend so many moments with them where you're really working together with one common goal, and you're put in situations that aren't, normal day-to-day situations with one another, you become basically like brothers, or in our case, brothers. And I always would tell people, I feel like that's what people need. But you mentioned that it's deeper than that. And it's not just that people don't, it's like, a lot of people don't know any black people, they just know what they see, or people of color, in general. They know what they see in the media and things like that. And, I always had the mindset that if they got to know, people of color, they might have a different outlook. But even in the post, I mean, you mentioned that it's even deeper, than that. And that was very eye-opening to me, and yeah, it's good stuff.
It was such an awesome post, and I mean, we've probably both watched it about 10 times, not only just to prepare for this, but to learn ourselves as well. And I'm so interested to hear from you on, this is a tough question, but you mentioned, if it wasn't that post, it was a different one, how you can pass as white. If I saw you walking down the street, I would say, oh, it's a blonde-haired white girl. And how has that been for you? Have you had backlash from that post? What is it like being so outspoken, right? Because I think Clyde and I can both say we both have had different experiences on, I'm the type of person that when I have something to say, I say it. And sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And if people don't want to listen to what I have to say, that is fine. A lot of people, and I think this happened to a lot of people of color over the last year and a half, have come to me and said, hey, what does that mean? I'm like, it's not okay to ask me what this means. I might not know the answer just because I'm a black woman. And I'm personally very appreciative of anybody that speaks out authentically, which I think is why Clyde and I both were very attracted to you. And I would love to hear how that has been for you, because I consider you very brave, honestly, and it's got to be tough, because I could have said the exact same things that you just said, and some people might take me more seriously, some people might not, because I can't speak as beautifully as you just did, honestly. So let me stop talking and get to I would love to hear the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that's when we're going to bring in the conversation about privilege, right? About colorism, about privilege. I fortunately have not had much pushback, at least recently, and especially on this medium. You get a lot of validation, which is cool. But at the same time, you remember that if somebody had said literally those exact same words, but had a darker skin tone than I would, they would have received a lot of pushback. They might not have believed. And it's incredibly frustrating to know that just because of the way that I look, my words are going to be taken more seriously. And it doesn't matter what kind of experience I have. And I love my program. I think it's wonderful. I think we've really learned a lot. But there are so many people in academia who have years and years of learning and experience, and have even done research in the field, who don't really understand the experience of people of color. And I'm not saying that I do, but just they say some kind of cringy things.
Yeah. So
it's not because I have X amount of years in academia. It's the fact that I look like I do. That's it. That's the only thing. And it's sometimes a struggle, because I appreciate you saying that it was authentic. I worry sometimes that it comes across as inauthentic. I worry sometimes that it is inauthentic. And again, that goes back to the identity struggle that we were talking about, having this identity, but not really feeling like I can claim it as my own. But I think the way that I deal with that is knowing that my word's going to be taken seriously. I look at it as a responsibility, and it's not just for me, it's for anybody whose words hold more power than others. I think it is their responsibility not to speak for somebody else, because I don't think that I can speak for anybody else, or that I should try to speak for anybody else, but just to know that my words will have power, and if that's the tool and that's the weapon that I bring to this struggle, then that's what I'm going to do. But also, like you said, it's not the responsibility of people of color, of women of color, to be educators. And I think in the past year, that's something that a lot of friends have said they've had to deal with. You know, people have had their kind of like woke awakening, and they're ready to learn, and they're coming to people of color like, okay, teach me. So it's not your responsibility to teach anybody.
Right.
You know, that's not why you exist. You don't exist now. You are continuing that cycle of racism by expecting these people who have been dealing with this, and you haven't bothered to learn about it until now, to all of a sudden be there to educate, like, oh, let me get my PowerPoint ready. Like,
Exactly.
that's not your job. You don't
Right.
speak for everybody, and you're not required to do that. So now I feel like I want to take on a burden, maybe do what I can, take some weight off the shoulders of other people who have to live this. I know that I can go and say something, and I won't have the negative repercussions that will fall on other people. So even if somebody says something negative to me, it won't quite hurt the same way it'll hurt other people, because I don't experience it day to day. You know, and there's something about being, you know, white Latina, where I can experience some kind of discrimination against Latinx people, but then I can kind of turn around, switch it up, and then just be, you know, a white woman at the top of that mountain of privilege, and kind of pull that card out, and yeah. So some pushback, yes, but people, I think, are at a point where they really want to be supportive, and the way I look, I'm an easy person to support, so it's less of a risk for them to support me. So I don't want to say it's been easy, but I know that privilege is working, and I'm gonna use it while I've got it.
As you should. And I think too, people identify with who they want to, right? So you're one voice out of so many different that are speaking up. And I agree with you. If you have something to share and you feel passionate about it, then share it. If people don't want to listen, they don't have to. So if there are people that relate to you the way that Clyde and I did, then if it's 500, if it's 1 million, if it's 2, what does it matter, as long as you're using your voice in the powerful way that you are, and you also have the education behind it, which is really, again, something that we found very interesting.
You did say something, though, that I would love to touch on, which is you saying you don't think you could have expressed it in the way that I did, and I've gotten that response a lot from people who want to join. They don't really know anything, but they want to say something. And I encourage those people to continue to speak out, even if they don't think they can say it the best way possible. Their words are going to carry power.
Yeah.
So,
and experiences are experiences. You know, if you experience something, or you see something, you know, I mean, you can speak on anything, you know.
I think that's how I live my whole life, right? Is if someone said to me, Alyssa, what is racism? I mean, I don't think you just explain that. And in your post, you mentioned you explained it in layman's terms, which we appreciated, because there are a lot of people that are starting to understand. What I have done recently is talk about experiences in my life, and Clyde has done the same. And so many people have been like, Alyssa, I had no idea. Like, well, because we were younger. I didn't even know who I was back then. And you touched on your post too about being mixed race, and how Black people see me as white and white people see me as Black. And I've always struggled trying to figure out where I fit in. And again, it just goes back to, if I have something to say, I'm going to say it. And as I continue to learn about how I do feel and educate myself as well, it's nice to be able to share. But you're right, there's no script of who should or shouldn't be able to talk. And I think we were looking forward to this conversation because there's so much to be said, and we have so many people in our community that want to learn, which is just something that I've always loved. And we really appreciate you.
Thank you
very much.
There's something different about the energy right now. People are ready to learn, I think, in a way that they haven't been before. So, I think it's a great time to talk about it.
Yeah. All right, so we've gotten where it came from, where it came from. All right, we're going to take a break.
Okay.
Quick break. We got a little game on the other end of the break. We're going to lighten the mood just a little bit before we dig back in, and then we're going to go into where do we go from here, basically. All right, so let's go to break.
Are you ready for the next level? Your greatest potential awaits you with Rev'd. Rev'd offers high-energy workouts challenging both your body and mind. Visit Rev'd in the greater Boston area or online from anywhere. Check out their current offerings and promotions at revdindoorcycling.com.
All right, welcome back. Born for Greatness, a Rev'd podcast. Again, we're here with Erin Freeman, and we're digging into some deep stuff. All right, but right now we're gonna lighten the mood. We have a little game, greatness or fakeness. All right, greatness or fakeness. All right, so greatness. Well, okay, so Alyssa's gonna take charge. She's gonna name something. Greatness, you know, it's great. You love it. Fakeness, not so much. All right, very simple stuff. Don't overthink it. Let's go, Liz.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Instagram TV.
Oh, greatness.
Obviously. Juneteenth as a federal holiday.
Oh, both. I don't know how to
can
answer that one.
elaborate. You can elaborate.
So I think it's fantastic that it's being recognized. I think it's fantastic that we are making a federal holiday so that people can actually take the day off. I did see a post on Instagram, speaking of which, recently that showed, okay, that's great. We're making this a holiday, but let's talk about all the other things that are existing. This is not a Band-Aid to go over everything else. So there's a lot of people patting themselves on the back for making this happen, but the real work hasn't really been done. So I'm stoked. I think it's a great step, but I think it's a step.
Yeah.
So
I would agree. CBD.
Greatness.
Do you use it?
I don't, but I'm stoked that other people have it and it's there for them. So,
quick side note. So I started physical therapy, and I asked my physical therapist, "What do you think about CBD?" And she was like, "Well, I can't tell you medically, but I think it's great." I feel like it's not. I feel like we've asked this a couple times because I'm just interested to hear what people say, and people that are into fitness. It's like half out there, but half not. So. Moving on, affirmative action.
greatness.
Absolute greatness.
No hesitation.
She's got a big smile on. Euro 2020 German national team jersey.
Oh, fakeness. Could be better.
I don't know what this is.
Okay, so, before we started, we explained the Euro tournament.
Yes.
It was supposed to be last year, right? That's why it's
Okay.
called.
We're still calling it Euro 2020.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is weird.
Everyone's
but
confused.
Yeah, but they're playing right now.
Yeah.
And, European national teams. It's a tournament. Kind of like World Cup structure, but just European national teams. And
So-
Germany's in it.
Is there a reason? So we've split up who makes up the greatness or fakenesses. Is there a reason you asked? Is it just I didn't know
the
if there was
German team?
something behind it or if it's just
Some of our family is German.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. I don't know if it
I'm
was like there's
I'm
controversy.
assuming that you're a fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
Okay. Sometimes there's controversy over jerseys and colors, and I just didn't know if there was something more there.
No, not really. They have bold, beautiful colors, and
Okay.
they might have been able to do more, but
Yeah.
I was more
you-
disappointed with their defense than their jersey.
Did you say greatness or fakeness? I
I
can't
did
remember.
fakeness.
They should have done
taken
more
it.
red. in the
Okay.
Yeah,
jersey.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Give me some bold
That,
colors.
that helps with defense,
Yeah, maybe.
It's subliminal. Stop.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank you for educating me. All right, Erin, your last one. # Blackout Tuesday.
Oh, fakeness. Yeah. So much fakeness.
Care to elaborate?
I think that was like the beginning of so many people's journey into exactly where we are right now. And it's performative. It's so performative. So many people posting Blackout Tuesday and then never doing anything afterwards, not supporting Black-owned businesses, not doing anything to create equality and equity in their places of business, continuing to marginalize people even as they're posting. I mean, the whole point of the Blackout Tuesday was to amplify Black voices, and you were supposed to not post anything so that we could use this hashtag to actually see what's happening. And instead it got filled with people trying to virtue signal, saying and virtue signaling, I'm getting into like jargon, but just showing like, look, I'm a good person, right? Like I'm one of the good ones. What was cool though afterwards is there was this awareness that later on that was not a good thing to have done. Like that's not the end point. So I think a lot of people were able to have a moment to reflect and be like, wow, I did that and I didn't even realize I was doing that. So, but still, fakeness, no good.
All right.
Thank you.
That was a tough one.
It was.
Upset. Yeah. Thank you for that. All right, back to it. All right, so you worked in immigration law for many years before going back to school. Tell us a little bit about what you saw happening behind the scenes.
Okay, so I did. I worked in immigration law. I did mostly business, but some family immigration, and just like all kinds of areas of law in the United States, things are built on precedent, and they're built upon a foundation of what had already existed, and we've had a lot of really racist immigration laws, quotas, exclusion acts, and that maybe they don't exist in the same form, serve as the basis for all of our immigration laws now. And you see the laws being applied differently to different groups of people. You see things being really, really challenging for some people, relatively easy for other groups of people. So even within the quote legal immigration system, there is discrimination, not just in how it's written, but how it's applied. And then learning more about undocumented immigration has been completely eye-opening, and I've been on this crusade to let everybody know I cannot stand come here the right way, because people have no idea what the right way is, to not understand how incredibly difficult it is to actually migrate here. If you don't have a master's, a PhD, advanced degree, and a job offer, there is no right way. It's not like people are refusing to go and sign paperwork. There literally is no way. And again, what is this system serving? The reason that people are coming here and fleeing the United States is because of our interventionism in Central and South America. But I digress. Basically, just kind of understanding the reality of what's going on, how complicated things are, and how we oversimplify them when we talk about things. So, that's what I've learned going on.
Yeah, thank you. So you're working on a research project in East Boston.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
Great. So my project is kind of a combination of my own experience, my legal experience, and then what I've learned through the program. I am looking at Central American families, so personal, who have migrated here, have experienced some kind of separation. And I know people are very aware of the separations at the border. It's been an issue, obviously, for the past couple of years. But what I think a lot of people don't know is that much more common than that is that families don't generally come here as a unit. The parents, one or both of them, will leave. They think they'll be gone for a year or two. They leave the kids back with another family member. They come here to find out that it's going to take them many, many years. As separations go on for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. People change. They come back expecting to kind of go back to where they were. And that's not the reality of what happens. So what I'm doing is going into East Boston and looking at what are the organizations and the institutions that are, one, helping families come back together, but also within this context of uncertainty, as we call it, legal uncertainty. People are dealing with discrimination. For anybody who has moved into a new home, it's really difficult to settle yourself if your boxes are not unpacked. If you're not sure if you're staying there for a year or 5 years, do I buy furniture to fit this house? And you kind of live in this state of temporariness, like I'll get some things off Craigslist. They don't really fit, but they work. So if we apply that to people who have come here to the United States and they're not sure if, tomorrow the policies will change. TPS will go away. DACA will go away. Somebody could get deported. And even if you're a citizen child, you might have a family member. And so it's really difficult to put down roots, to bring your family back together in a really meaningful way if you're not sure what's going to happen. So looking at the institutions that are there in East Boston, and the longer I've been there, the more I see there are so many of them. There's so many, and it's wonderful seeing how they're creating spaces where these families can feel like they belong, even if they're living with this uncertainty around them. There's something secure. There's something that makes them feel like they are wanted, welcome, that this is a space that's home-like. So looking at these organizations and how they're creating these spaces for families is what I've been doing.
Awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Post-graduation, where do you see yourself?
So I've actually returned to the office.
Okay.
So I'm doing immigration law again, which has been wonderful. I don't want to stay in academia. I think it's fabulous and people are really pushing the envelope. But because of my background, I would like to be involved in a much more applied way. So I'm looking to do advocacy to work with different organizations. The TPS committee in this area is doing really fantastic things, and there are a lot of other organizations. So, I think my strength is in translating what's going on in these high level legal academic spaces because a lot of work is being done, but the ability to translate that into action,
Hmm.
to take a high level concept, to take this data and communicate it to the people on the ground in a way that is understandable and also actionable, is the link that's missing.
Hmm.
There's so many people on the ground and there's so many people, in the ivory tower, and I would like to be the person that connects them. So if that's advocacy, if it's some kind of consultancy to organizations that are doing the work, that's where I'd like to go.
Ending up just there. So this is a very what I consider a tough question.
Okay.
And a little bit off script here. So let's say I'm listening or watching this episode because I last year felt empowered and ready to make change and lost it a little bit over the last year, got distracted. Where do I start? So let's say, gosh, I'm just curious if someone's listening to this, if they came to you and said, help, what can I do? How can I change? I'm feeling a certain type of way. How would you guide them?
That's a great question. And it is tough because everybody's journey is going to look a little different.
Right.
The first thing I would say is to not expect yourself to be, a fully prepared warrior from day one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to take on the whole system. You don't have to make this momentous, change in order to have some kind of positive effect. Small little changes done by multiple people is going to result in that larger change. So there are two things that I think we need to do. And the first is something I saw a lot of people do, which is educate, right? Going out and buying books, reading. The internet is amazing. There's so much on the internet, right? It's so accessible. It's so easy to find at any level. Follow some people of color on Instagram. They are so generously breaking things down for people in an easy way to understand way, and it's very easy to find. You just have to actually take the time to go and find it, and that's easy. I think following someone on Instagram is so low labor intensive. That's one course of action, is to educate so that you can spot it happening, right? Because these things are invisible systems around us. We don't recognize them happening, but once you're educated, you'll see them. You'll see them happening, and that's when part two comes in, right? It's the action. And again, you don't have to drop everything, go to grad school, and become an activist, right? That would be great, and I'd be happy to talk to you about that. But something small as buying your books from a Black-owned business instead of Amazon, searching out Black-owned businesses, making a regular donation to people who are on the ground. Right? You don't have to be the person on the ground, but you can support the people who are already there and who know your communities. So just taking small actions like that, speaking up when you hear a friend say something, right? And especially once you've educated yourself, you're like, hey, you probably didn't mean this thing, but like I just learned that this is actually really harmful. So, a better thing would be to say this other thing. Speaking up, as we said earlier, with a level of privilege, your words carry a lot of power. And I don't think we recognize that power that we have and the effect that it can have. Even that small little drip is creating those ripples that are, that person might say that to somebody else
Yeah.
and to somebody else. And all of a sudden you're the person who started that circle of awareness that's now spreading. So, those two roads, just educate yourself and then take small actions, and maybe they become bigger ones, but maybe those little ones make a change to, a handful of people. That's it.
It's really important. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you just said that, because it's kind of like we were talking about before during break, is you have no idea what your maybe small little ripple effect could have on somebody else. So I think we would both encourage anybody that has questions has anything to say, if you're second guessing yourself, educate yourself or ask or learn instead of feeling like this is an uncomfortable conversation or this isn't something that I should be asking. I know I'd mentioned before people coming to me and asking questions. I will never be upset at somebody for asking me. I just might not have the answer. And if I don't have the answer, I would direct them to the place where people could have the right answer. So I think it's so important. I really, really hope that anybody listening to this would be inspired to do that little thing for themselves and inspire change.
And start there. Just one little thing. You don't have to do
Yeah.
all of them at the same time. Switch all of your business. Start to become an actor. One thing. Just do
Yeah.
one thing. Start
Yeah.
there, and then go from there. And make it a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
It's not just something you're going to do over the next month. Like
Right.
that's the tough thing. I think is it's a commitment. You're not just doing things for other people. You're changing yourself, and not to become a better person. This is not about your own self revision. It's about being a better force in the world. And that might mean giving some things up, which I think is going to be the really tough part. You know, Clyde, as you were saying, why isn't this going away? It's because we're not only doing things for other people, but we're going to have to give up some of that privilege that we have ourselves. But
Right.
one step at a time.
Yeah. I have a question. So, you've been studying this stuff, and this stuff has been at the forefront of your mind for a while. Before last year, when so many things were happening, and so many more people were speaking out, and things like that. Since this year has gone on, have you seen any change?
Have I seen any change in people around or
Just
the world?
yeah, I mean the just people in general,
Mhm.
like obviously there's been a lot more awareness, but I guess, yeah, have you seen any change as far as any change in the right direction, I should say. Yeah.
No, I understand now. Yeah, there's something different. There's something different. And I definitely think it's related to the pandemic and everybody's attention just being able to focus on this for a little bit longer. Anybody who's been working in this space for a while has always thought this is the time. This was the one that's going to get everybody to pay attention. When everything happened with Michael Brown, it's like this is going to be the time. Eric Garner, you're like, this is awful. I can't believe, this has to change now. And people would be involved for a few weeks and then it would die down and something else would come up, which is very frustrating. But there's something different about now, about this time. And again, maybe it was because everything was shut down and people didn't have anything else to pay attention to. Whatever it is, the energy is definitely different now. I don't expect momentous change to really happen, but you see the seeds of it. And I think this is really the first time, at least in my experience, that such a significant number of people have not only wanted to know more about this, but have actually taken the time to self-reflect, which is so encouraging. I cannot say how many people I've seen like say, I didn't realize I was doing this thing. And I think that spark and that realization that it's not just those racists over there, but it's us who are also doing this is what's going to make this stick. Because now people are looking at what they're doing, saying, oh, wow, what about this thing? What about this thing? What about this thing? And they're really starting to open their eyes. And I really hope that energy continues. But I there's definitely something different about this time now
Yeah.
than in the past.
Yeah. And one more question
Sure.
I have.
As many as you
so,
want.
so I keep hearing, not even just from you, about giving up privilege. How do you do that? I think that's, to me, yeah, it's just, something, if a privilege is given to you, how exactly do you, go about, basically giving it back?
Mhm. Yeah, that's the tough one. And that's why it's going to be so difficult to change. And first you have to recognize your privilege.
Mhm.
And that's a step that seems pretty, self-evident, but it's not. We don't understand what our privilege is. And again, I think first there's a mindset shift, which is not, I need to do things for other people, but it's, I need to revise myself. So that level of self-reflection that we were talking about, what is your privilege? What is your privilege? And there's an acronym, and I don't know if people are familiar with this, NIMBY, not in my backyard, right? You're willing to donate to things that are happening in the quote inner cities or wherever people are that are not white. But when it's your neighborhood, and some of the things that I've talked about on social media is, be willing for your tax dollars to not just go to support your areas. You know, fight for the things that you care about with as much vigor as you do in your space. You're okay with something happening until it affects your life. Like, be okay with some of that going away. Recognize what you have, and then allow change, not just elsewhere, but allow change and embrace change. And if you have a strong reaction to something, like, evaluate that. Right? Why am I reacting this way? And what are the beliefs that I might not even be aware of that are kind of underpinning those reactions? And I think just being okay with things changing, being okay with things going away, and yeah, be willing to for that change to kind of take over. It's not going to be a bad thing, and really take the time to evaluate what are the feelings that are undermining or underpinning rather your reactions, which is a tough thing. It's a really, really tough thing to do. And that being said, there's not a lot of agency in your privilege because it's something that's given to you.
Yeah.
It's not something you choose.
Right.
So fight for that level on the systemic level. Maybe we talked about racism as a systemic level. Like, write to your senators, write to your representatives, say, like, I want this money to go here. And even if that's not to you, like, take the money that's coming to me and give it to something else. Use your privilege to break down those barriers.
Yeah.
So let's look at the systemic level and see what we can do on that level. Write to your representatives. Right? That means something. So
Yeah, that's good stuff. I feel like a little kid, like sitting in the back of the room, wanting to ask so many questions. Yeah.
Because it's awesome. It's so awesome.
It is, and
This is
it's
so great.
really awesome coming from someone like yourself. Like Alyssa said, and I'm I do this as well. Like, I'll hear someone looks like me speak a lot of these same things, and it is different coming from someone like yourself, and I really, really respect someone that doesn't have to do what you do, someone that doesn't have to care like you care, and doesn't necessarily have to deal with the stuff that you're fighting for. It's really really special, and it's awesome to see, really, really. So all right, that being said, let's go. We got some quick fire questions. All right,
let's go.
Back to Alyssa. Okay, these are quick fire questions. This is don't overthink it. First thing that comes to mind. All right,
These are fun. A little more get to know.
I love
Get
it.
to know Erin as
Let's
a
do it.
person. First concert you went to.
Oh, Elton John.
Elton John.
Yeah.
Do you remember where?
No, I don't. It was in 1989. My mom is 20 years older than me.
Okay.
So, we used to jam out to Elton John, and I was 4 years old. And apparently the people who were sitting in front of us were very unhappy that a 4-year-old was there. But if you're familiar with the song Benny and the Jets, he plays one chord, and then there's a pause, and then he sings the song. And he played that chord, and I turned to my mom and screamed, "Mom, it's Benny and the Jets." And she said they had no words to say after that because you truly belonged at that concert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She told you this, or you remember?
do you
Oh,
this?
no, I have no
yeah.
recollection of this, but I did go to see him
So-
again afterwards, and
yeah.
it was magical. So.
That's so funny.
That's
my
a great
my son just
story.
turned 4, and I couldn't imagine taking him to a show. He'd love it though.
You would love
Yeah,
that.
He's a dancer, but yeah, that's awesome.
What
That's awesome.
what show would you take him to throw a question back at
That's
you?
a good question. That's a great question. My music taste is like, you know what's crazy? When I was growing up, I felt like I had to hide my music taste in a lot of ways because I was into certain stuff. And people that have taken my swing class, they see it. But you get into it, right, Les?
Yeah.
It works. I know Jesse loves it. Yeah.
It works for you. And that's what makes you you.
Yeah, if you're feeling it, if you can sell it, you sell it by, you're into it, and as you know.
Exactly.
Let's see. That's a good question. That's a great question. Let me
Paw
get back
Patrol.
to you before
Sounds-
Paw Patrol.
I'm sure they have shows. Grayson likes Paw Patrol.
We're talking concerts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be Clyde's
Oh.
music. What
talking like
show
a
would you
musical?
share that with him?
Now
I'm
I'm
gonna
thinking.
Answer. I'll answer.
Yeah.
Let me think.
Yeah, think
I'll
on that because I would love to know the answer to that. Favorite movie when you need a good laugh?
Oh, when I need a good laugh. That's a great question. I don't really have a go-to for needing to laugh.
Or favorite movie?
Okay, this is gonna be like really nerdy, but Pride and Prejudice, but the 1939
The old
version.
one.
Wait, what's the
with-
new one? The latest one?
Oh God, I don't know. There's so many,
It's-
and I
yeah.
get mad. I'm like, that's not the best one.
Yeah.
No, this one has Laurence Olivier. It's black and white, and it's fabulous. I love it.
You're an old soul.
Oh my God, I'm in love with Audrey Hepburn. I love all the old movies.
And Elton John.
You're fabulous. Funniest thing that's happened to you recently?
Recently, funniest thing that's happened to me recently. I don't know. I feel like nothing has really happened because we're only just starting to get outside
very
now.
true.
So
You could get back to us.
I
on
will.
That one
I'm
as
gonna
well.
think on that one.
We need
It's
to
not
have a
really
follow-up,
quick
'cause we have
fire,
lots.
but
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
In the credits.
Favorite post-workout snack?
Let's see. I love to drink a Body Armor. It's
Oh.
yeah. It's nice because it's got like a little bit of coconut water, so it's got some
Yeah.
texture. It's got some sweetness, and I just down it right after.
I need to
love
give Body
Body-
Armor another try.
You
It's
do.
so
I think
good.
They
I-
actually just sent me a case of their latest sports drink
Yeah.
last week, so
Yeah.
I'll bring you some.
I'm sure they've like made it better.
Strawberry banana swear.
Oh, for
Okay.
sure.
So
Yes.
good.
It's
That's the best
so
one.
good. They have made it better. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
It used to be not the best. What song pumps you up the most right now?
Oh, okay. So even this morning I played a remix of Azuquita.
Oh,
Yeah. Anything by Daddy Yankee, but especially if we bring Daddy Yankee and Steve Aoki together, that's just it's
whoa.
nothing better. Nothing better. That's my jam.
Never
right now.
gets old. Someone, sorry, this was the wrong question. Who would you have lunch with, dead or alive?
Dead or alive.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gonna be such an unpopular answer, but Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I know. I know people
Why
don't
do you
like
say unpopular?
Oh, because there's because there is a concerted effort anytime a woman is going for a position of power, public opinion changes. And you can look at the data behind this. She had such an incredibly high popularity rate when she was Secretary of
She
State.
did.
Fine when
Yeah.
she is in that position. The moment she ran for office, it plunged.
Yeah.
And she, unfortunately, due to her associations, her marital associations, has been in the spotlight for a long time. So there's a lot of ammo back there. But I'm a Wellesley alum. She's a Wellesley alum, class of '69.
Ah.
I've heard her speak, and I just relate on such a level to her desire to be the one who's done the work, right? Who's done the homework, who shows up prepared. This woman is so thoroughly prepared for everything, so incredibly well educated. And if you look back at everything she's done at the national, at the state level, for any community she's been a part of, she is somebody who is not a great politician, but behind the scenes she puts the work in, and I would love to just be around her. Talk
I will
about
come
her
with
life.
you. Should
Yes.
we let's make
Let's
it happen.
just do it.
Yeah.
We'll reach out.
Okay, last one from me. How do you come down after, let's say, an emotionally draining day?
Yeah, I try to put that down. Whatever was emotionally draining, try to not hold on to it. Maybe address it later, but in the moment, I want to do something that makes me feel deliriously happy. An old movie. I love a glass of rosé. I just want to sit down and shut everything out. So that's probably the way I deal with that.
Thank you.
I
Thank
like
you.
it.
Mm-hmm.
You ever heard of Local Natives?
No.
No. So when Gray was young, I used to play this song. I love this song I still love it, and I'd play it every day. And after a while, he started humming it. It was wild to witness. And so then I would play it every day just so we could like sing it together.
Yeah.
And I'd take him to Local Natives.
Okay.
I'll
well,
sing you the song after we're
Yes, please.
after we're done.
Well, I'm going to need to know about it because, I mean, you'll both understand this as spin instructors. I'm about to go down a playlisting hole on that one. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll see what you think.
Okay.
All right. So that's all we have for you, Erin.
Great.
We appreciate you. I got one more question.
Okay.
We'd like to ask all of our guests. This is Born for Greatness podcast. What does greatness mean to you?
Greatness to me is when somebody finds the thing that drives them and they fully embrace it and kind of give all of their passion. I think we so narrowly define greatness, and here's the sociologist in me. Greatness is defined by the society that you live in. So whatever my skills and talents are, they might be valued more in one society than the other. And I think if you are able to kind of burst out of that system, appreciate your strengths for what they are, and just like rock them out and be yourself, and not worrying about what other people think, and to just fully embrace that. I think that's greatness to me.
Well, we think you're greatness.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Erin. Seriously.
It's such a privilege to be here.
This
Thank
is,
you.
This is good stuff. And yeah, but thank you. Alyssa said it. Thank you. I'll say it again, like, you're doing really, really cool stuff. And just keep it going. Keep it going. We're behind you. We're behind you. Anything you need.
Thank
Absolutely. And that's it. That is a wrap. Thank you for joining us, you guys. Born for Greatness, a Rev'd podcast once again with Erin Freeman today. Thank you again, Erin. And we'll see you next episode. Later.
This podcast is brought to you by Rev'd Indoor Cycling, whose mission is to provide affordable and inclusive experiences for all to discover their greatest potential. For more information about Rev'd, please visit the website revdindoorcycling.com.